Cloudnet. Cloudnet is nothing but it is a network address translation service. Lets certain resource without external IP address to create outbound connection to the internet. So it is a way to map multiple local private address to a public one before transferring the information. So it means, for example, you have a VM, right? So you don't have public IP address on that VM. So if you don't have public IP address on that VM, you cannot connect to internet, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then you can use something called Cloudnet. So Cloudnet is a service. It will provide you outbound connection to your internal network without assigning a public IP address. It is as simple as your on-prem proxy server. Any doubt here?
So the option which one you selected earlier with the check mark of the private IP, something that.
Yeah, that is to connect to the Google APIs. Now you wanted to connect to internet.
Okay.
For example, this is a
Oh, yeah.
VPC.
Understand.
Okay. This is a VPC. You have a subnet. You have an internet here. Okay, so you have a VM here which doesn't have internet, which doesn't have public IP address. So if you don't have public IP address, you cannot browse Google. Okay, so Google have a service called Cloudnet. Okay, so you can use Cloudnet to contact your internet, so to reach the internet. So what will happen? All your traffic will go from the NAT to the internet. So to internet, it will use this IP address to reach the internet. So for example, in your on-prem VM, you doesn't have public IP address, right? You're accessing internet through proxy server. So proxy server is acting as a NAT there. Similarly, in cloud, like nobody will deploy public IP address to each resource. Okay, so for example, if I deploy public IP address, I can reach cloud directly, but this is threat, right? I'm sending my outbound traffic directly to the cloud using the IP address. That is not something recommended. So instead of that, what I'm doing, I'm deploying a cloud gateway. So I'm redirecting all my internet traffic to the cloud, cloud gateway. So cloud gateway will take care of the outbound routing. So let me show you the demo. That time you will understand how it works. Okay. So I have a VM here, right? So this is my VM. Where is my VM? Okay, so this is my VM. This is the test VM. If you go to my compute engine, you can see my test VM. Okay, so let's take Mumbai, this one. Okay. So this Mumbai VM is having a public IP address. You can see Mumbai VM having public IP address, public IP address 34.100.22.130. So let's confirm here. Okay. So this is my public IP address, that is 34.100.22.130. Okay, so let's say I'm removing this IP address. Before removing, I will show you I can able to browse internet. You can see, right? I can go to www.facebook.com. So now the traffic is going from my VM directly to the internet using this public IP address. Okay, so I have a direct connection. So now I will try to remove the IP address, public IP address. I'm going to the network. Where is my network? Okay, so you can see my public IP address here, right? External IP address, this one. It is assigned, already assigned. So I'm saying it as a none. I'll click done. I'll click save. Now I will lost the connectivity here because it will take some time to apply. Then I will lost the connectivity because I don't have public IP address now.
So from other one box, you will take the RDP, correct? Because that is
Because
getting
I
the.
have, I have a VNet peering, right? I can access it from internal IP address. So now I'll go to my domain controller. So let's go to my domain controller. See, I lost the connectivity because I don't have public IP address now. Okay, so till now you're clear, right?
Yeah, good.
Yes, ma'am.
So now I need to access the VM. So public IP address is not there. So the only option is I have the internal IP and I have the VNet peering so that I can access it from my domain controller. So I will log into my domain controller. Okay, so what is the IP address, internal IP address of my the one which I removed. So now see external IP is nothing. So I'll copy the internal IP address. I will go to my domain controller. This is my domain controller. Yeah, I'll do MSTSC. Okay. Okay, so I will go. We have a peering right here. Okay, VDI to VDI we have a peering. So okay, so the rule was missing. So now I'm able to take the RDP. So this machine is the Mumbai machine is not in domain, so I need to use the local credential here. Okay, so username is this is the username. The password I have saved in the chat. Okay, now I'm accessing the VM, which doesn't have the public IP address. I'm accessing from the internal network. Okay, so now if I open Facebook, if I close this, if I open the Facebook, you can see the IP address, right? IP config. This is my Mumbai VM, which doesn't have public IP address. So now let's go to facebook.com. See, I'm not able to browse facebook.com because I don't have public IP address. Dot IP chicken. Guys, are you clear? Now I'm
Yeah.
not able to access anything because I don't have public IP address. So this is a normal corporate scenario where you're not assigning any IP address to your VMs or VDAs, right? So now the second question comes, how I can reach the internet? So in a normal corporate infrastructure, you can use the proxy server and you can reach. Okay, let's say you don't have proxy server, then there is something called Cloudnet, as I told. So we can use Cloudnet and we can reach internet. Okay, so Cloudnet, let's deploy the Cloudnet.
So Cloudnet is against service, correct? That's
Yeah, so I'm creating a Cloudnet. So testnet network, I'm creating a VDA, like I wanted to deploy a Cloudnet to my VDA VPC. Okay, so region South Mumbai, cloud router, create a new, we need to create something called cloud router. I'll create test router. Okay, so you can mention the IP address here. So like from which public IP address you wanted to send the traffic. So if you select automatically, Google will select automatic public IP address. If you select manual, you can define the IP address. Okay, this is why it is required, because let's say some financial application like routers, Bloomberg, right? It doesn't accept, let's say Bloomberg routers, right? These are the applications. It doesn't accept traffic from random public IP address. It has to be, let's say the traffic is going from company XYZ public IP address, then only it will accept. It won't accept, like for example, I am the guy who is accessing a router application from my PC, which is in office network, which is having a public IP address of my company, then it will accept the traffic. But if I same guy went to cyber cafe and try to access, it won't accept. Okay, so in that scenario, you have to define particular IP address, public IP address to send the traffic. So in such scenario, you can select manual and you can enter your own public IP address so that all the traffic will get traversed through that public IP address. Are you guys got what is the benefit of automatic and manual?
Yeah.
Okay. So automatic means it will assign random IP address. From that, it will go to the internet. So if you assign manual, it will all the traffic which will go from your VDA, right? It will have the same single IP address, which is manual. It won't change. So once this Cloudnet is enabled, right, we can able to reach our internet. Let's see that. Okay, now it is running. I'm going to my VPN machine and I'm trying to do a refresh. Okay, see, now it is going. Now it is going from my Cloudnet IP, not like I don't have any public IP assigned to this my machine. So it is using Cloudnet to go outside. Guys, any doubt here with the Cloudnet?
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So when
So
when
this
you
is help.
say manually, we need to add the public IP. So
Yeah.
is it like our firewall IP we need to add, or what specific manual IP we need to use?
Yeah. Manual IP means, see, like for example, any company, they will buy some particular, buy some public IP from the service provider, whether it is Airtel,
Correct.
Geo, whatever.
Correct.
Okay. So
Correct.
you can use that IP address there. Okay.
Okay. So it's
So
like
why?
public DNS server, or
No,
it's
let
just
me
the
explain
public IP
why.
address.
Yeah, it's a general
So
public IP address. Okay. So let
it's
me
like
say,
point to site, right? In Azure.
yeah, see, let's say you have a VPC. Okay, you have this Bloomberg, as I told you. Okay, so for example, you're sitting in internet cafe and you're accessing Bloomberg. You can access, but it will deny your access because this is coming from your random public IP address. Okay.
Non-trusted IP address. Yeah.
Yeah, non-trusted public IP address. Okay, so for example, you are a company, like for example, TCS. TCS
Hmm?
will buy some IP address, chunks of IP address from Airtel. Okay, so for
Right.
example, this is the IP address 192, 188, something like that. Okay, if you assign this IP address in the manual, right? So all the traffic which will go to the Bloomberg using this IP address, and Bloomberg knows that this IP address belongs to TCS and they will allow it.
Oh,
Clear?
okay.
Yeah. So in
Understood.
a corporate network, people are using proxy IP. So proxy is also, the concept is same for proxy. Okay.
Clear.
Clear, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is how Cloudnet, and we saw the demo also, the Cloudnet. So now you can see, now it is showing IP address of your Cloudnet. See, not IP address of your VM. This is a Cloudnet. NATed IP. So if you use your manual IP, it will show your manual IP over here, the company IP address.
Got it.
Yeah, so that is the different. That is the advantage of Cloudnet. Cloudnet is useful, when you use a VM service, right? Workspace Environment Manager. So your VM requires required to access VM service in the cloud. That time, if you don't have proxy server in your environment, you can use Cloudnet to allow the outbound traffic instead of directly assigning public IP address to VM, which is not at all recommended. So guys, we have completed Cloudnet also.